What's up, y'all? Welcome to a new segment on the channel called Mighty's Methods. On these type of videos, we're going to be going over some advice and things that you can apply to IRL and also in-game tips and tricks to help you get either currency or bosses killed or things that you can just apply with the same logic to your life as is. So stick around to the end, leave me a comment, like, and be sure to subscribe. Let's dive in. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Mighty Moth here, back with another video. So this is a new segment to the channel. We're going to be releasing these semi-regularly, probably after like the first 2 or 3 weeks. We'll just be doing one a week, giving you tips and tricks on things that I've discovered or the best ways to do this or that also tie into like IRL development. So today's segment is about feeling hopeless and lost. Now, the same goes for in-game as it is in real life. Your feeling of hopelessness is usually rooted in the fact that you don't have a goal or an aim that can measure whether or not you're achieving anything. The thing that gives you hope is seeing the progression. And if you're playing a grindy ARPG like PoE2, it can be overwhelming. There's a lot of things to do at any given time. There's a lot of different questions that you want answered. And if you think about it, the root of question is quest. So you're basically on a whole bunch of quests, even just asking questions. So you have to think about it like this. How do I set reasonable, attainable goals to get me to what I want to do, to get to the end game? So for me, I think of it like this. What build fits my playstyle? Okay, I'm more of a warrior player. Maybe they're not great this season. Maybe they are. I'm a masochist. I'm still going to play it. Then, which ascendancy do I believe fits my playstyle? I'll do some research. And then, main goal, beat the campaign. Don't worry about anything else. Just play and have fun. Enjoy the campaign for what it's worth. And just get it done. Just have fun, immerse yourself in it, and just don't worry about doing any of the other stuff. Just make sure you get from point A to point B. We need to beat the campaign, and then we'll figure it out later. So at that point, once you've beaten the campaign, you can say, well, what am I going to do? My main goal is reach level 90, because once you're level 90, that pretty much gives you the ability to go and do whatever you want. Now, there are a few different ways you can also be leveling and gaining currency, so we'll go over those briefly. You can do Trials of Chaos to get soul cores that sell for a lot, and it'll also drop currency and some items. You can do the Trials of the Sekima, which will give you items at the end for rewards, items from the bosses, and most importantly, jewels. Jewels early are super sought after, and those are things that people are going to want. Now, I wouldn't spend a lot of time farming those until after I've hit the end game, but if you want to do a couple of runs while you're doing the campaign, that's fine. Also, the mines in Act 2. When you go to the mines, you can farm a few runs of that. Make sure you just respawn at checkpoint, and it'll get you your armor scraps and your whetstones, and those things will help you progress into the end game because you'll have a lot of them to quality your items. And if you don't quality them and you're not really having any difficulty, they will be somewhat sought after once you hit Cruel, and you can use the currency exchange. Then you can just post them, get you some exalts, craft some more gear. But once you've reached past the campaign and hit level 90, and you're trying to pick a direction of what you want to farm, that's where it gets into kind of murky water. And this is me throwing caution to the wind and speculating what will be lucrative and some of the paths you can take. So bear with me, but this is my opinion. So first, money makers. So this is something that I've done the last couple leagues, is basically target tablets that have increased splinters dropped, be it breaches or simulacrums. You get 2 passive points for free. So if you can go into your Atlas passive tree and you can select increased splinters dropped by either simulacrum or breach, or now the audience with the king, I guess, will be splinters, and I mean, also the expedition will be splinters. I get it says everything splinters. So again, speculation, but they've always been worth quite a lot. Like you can get several exalts per splinter because now you only need a fraction of them to open up the end game event and fight the boss. So people are going to be trying to rush to get their passive points. So if I were you, I would look and see how many points I need to get the maximum amount of splinters that you could get. It's typically 4, and the rest of them don't really apply to splinters. But I would target those. I would try to do those end game events with whenever you get the amount of splinters that is necessary to get your first set of 2 passive points, which will give you your 4, and then farm and farm and farm those simulacrum splinters or those breach splinters and sell them in the currency exchange. Now, there's also other ways to make currency, but that is like typically just the flat out easiest thing. You can just find tablets that have the increased splinters, pop them in any old tower, doesn't matter, run the maps, and just on your way to an actual good tower layout, you can just run those. It's like a win-win situation. You get experience, you get splinters, you get currency. As I said, crafting is going to be very different, so you're going to probably want to pay attention to certain steps to obtain like a decent base and then the currency that you're going to need in order to get to your end game item. So, starting with bases, what are your ideal bases? So, you're going to want to go to the highest tier maps you can get because those are going to drop you bases with increased quality and also a chance for increased sockets. Now, once you find these, you could probably just sell these for a few divines apiece. Off rip, they're probably going to be highly sought after bases, and that's something that you could just farm without having any rarity on your gear because it isn't contingent on having rarity. You would just want as much quantity of items as you can get on your maps and just run the highest tier content you could get to get the increased quality and the increased sockets on your gear. And those would be your ideal bases. Now, they could be white, they could be magic, they could be whatever. I'm assuming that the more rarity you have, it will also be better. I don't know that you could also use the reduced rarity so that you could just get white bases. I I think they're going to be pretty like scarce, so I don't know that reducing your rarity is going to actually positively impact it. But it is a way to farm like stellar amulets and heavy belts and things of that nature that people do buy in bulk in order to chance orb, in order to get the unique versions of them. But I think with all the new base types and basically some pretty legit crafting options, I think the white bases are actually going to be pretty desirable. But alternatively, like a magic base with increased quality and increased sockets that has like a T1 prefix or suffix on it could also be a very desirable option to sell early in the league. If you get any of those, I would probably price check them or ask the community what they think it's worth and judge the value for yourself. Whatever you would feel comfortable getting rid of it for, that's what I would do. Now, the reason I think these are going to be pretty sought after is because they have now perfect currency. They have tiered currency. And if I understand it correctly, which I mean, I might not, but it basically guarantees you a modifier of a certain tier. So if it's a perfect transmutation or augmentation, I would assume it guarantees you a T1 modifier. Now, what's going to be a pretty lucrative farm is if you can get perfect transmutations, augmentations, and orbs of annulment. Because this way, you can basically guarantee a good base. What makes a good base with items, typically, like let's say a mace, high percent fizz, and melee skills. If you could get a white item and just throw 2 orbs on it and it lands T1% fizz and T1 melee skills and it already has like the 30% quality and the increased socket, you are sitting pretty, my friend. But if you don't get that, you can just use an orb of annulment and then continuously rinse, lather, repeat until you get 2 T1 modifiers that you actually want. And then at that point, you can use the essences, which are now like tiered with lesser, normal, and greater. And then there's also the perfect, which like removes a random modifier and then gives you a guaranteed modifier. But I'm pretty sure with the lesser, the normal, and the greater, these are all like they guarantee you a certain modifier, but not exactly the tier. I'm assuming. There's not a lot of information on this, so again, speculation. So if you had a percent fizz T1 and a T1 melee skills, you would want an essence that gives you flat physical damage. So if there is an essence that guarantees you flat physical damage, bada bing, bada boom, you throw that on there. Now your mace is basically done. Like that's that's it. You could sell it right there. It doesn't need any other mods on it. It's already good. But if you could get other modifiers that are also sought after, you're doing even better. And even at this point, you could use omens such as like the dextral or sinistral annulments. So let's say you got 2 good prefixes and a bad suffix. You could use a dextral annulment to only take off suffixes. If you had the currency to do this, you could buy them. Like, obviously, this is like some pretty end game stuff, but it's things to think about how other people think. So if you have those items, you could sell those items for a decent chunk of change and save yourself the headache trying to make it. Or you could just drop some exalts in it, spray and pray the exalts in, and hope that it comes out decent. Because hey, it's already better than you had, so you might as well use it. So that's something to think about. I would not use any of your perfect currency unless you have already attained the perfect base. Now, there's countless ways that you could craft an item, but once I figure out the best way to start from white or magic and figure out what omens are in the game and what they do, we'll talk about that at a later date for like a total crafting video, but we're just going to stick with figuring out your goals. So let's review. You want to pick your class that fits your playstyle. You want to pick your ascendancy that fits your playstyle. And then you want to beat the campaign. Now, in Act 2, you want to farm the mines. You want to make sure you do a couple of those to get you your whetstones and your armor scraps. Now, I don't know when the currency exchange is actually going to be able to be interacted with because Cruel is no longer there. So I'm assuming in Act 4, maybe? So then you can sell your whetstones or your armor scraps or anything of that nature. On your way, if you want to farm some trials, so you can get soul cores or socketables or take a chance at getting the currency from there or getting the jewels that are going to really be that like pinnacle point of power. Like getting a good jewel early can really change your character. Then beat the campaign. Get to level 90. On your way to level 90, you can again either do some trials to try and gain currency while you're getting XP, or you can just do maps and make sure to focus on getting things like quantity of items or quantity of splinters dropped, and do that in your Atlas passive tree as well, while focusing on mobs like increased number of monster packs, increased pack size, magic monsters, magic pack size, rare mobs, things of that nature. And if your build is struggling a little bit, feel free to spec into the shrines because the shrines are going to give you a little boost in your maps and it's going to make it a lot faster. The more maps you can clear in an hour, if you only have 2 hours to play, the better off you're going to be. Once you hit level 90, you have unlocked basically all the power that you're going to be able to get through your passive tree, other than like basically a negligible amount of power gain. So now you can pick your path. what build am I going to pick to specialize in what content? If I just want to blitz through maps and farm currency, or I want to do trials, or I want to do T4 bosses, search the internet. By this point, Max Roll or uh, people on YouTube like myself are going to have some content to showcase some builds that are good at different things. Then what you're going to want to do is tune back into this channel and view all the videos on endgame crafting and different farming strategies and stuff like that that we're going to be releasing as we discover the best and most efficient ways to do these things. And then you're done. You can make your next tune and start all over, or you can just keep grinding and gain infinite currency and do some craft to exile videos for yourself and make you a mirror bow or whatever for the 58% of players that are going to be playing Deadeye this league. But that's pretty much it for the video. Going to try and keep it as short as possible. You already know what it is. I love you guys. You are enough. Stay blessed. And as always, stay mouthy. If you like what you saw, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. And we'll see you on the next one.